Trump, fire players who kneel during US national anthem. So the issue that I have isn't so much to do with pride and patriotism in your own country and your national anthem, your country's flag, etc. I don't see anything wrong with that. And therefore I can understand two sides of the argument with regards to the American football players. I believe in freedom of expression and I believe in freedom of speech. Someone did make an interesting point that with regards to freedom of speech, there is a limit if you're working for a company. Let's say you work for McDonald's and you wouldn't have that freedom of speech to just say whatever you like because you're representing that company. Okay, fair enough. But I don't think there's a fair comparison there. But then again, someone could argue with that. I would like to hear your own opinion. But what do you think of this? With American football players being able to freely express themselves, and of course I can understand people's problem with that, I don't think it's right for the government to get involved and then start dictating that these players should be fired simply because of their freedom of expression. And yet I'm someone who can understand and admire people for their pride and patriotism of their own country and their national anthem and the flag, etc. But I like to differentiate nationalism versus patriotism in that regard. I don't think there's anything malicious, there's anything bad about, the fact that these players don't stand to the national anthem and all the rest of this. People have a right to freely express themselves, freely criticise them. Do that. I don't see an issue with that. There's no problem. But it's when my issue with this whole nationalism, and this is where I differentiate nationalism from patriotism, my issue with nationalism is when one collective group forces their will upon everyone and an individual and says, if you don't do what we say as this collective group, then you should be punished for it. I don't agree with that. Like I say, by all means, show your pride in your country, show your pride in your national anthem, be proud of it and everything, right? And sure, you can freely express yourself and criticise something that you may not like. I agree, if you don't like something, then do so. You're free to express yourself. But I don't think that it's right to force your will upon another individual. And therefore, as much as I may disagree with those who are left-wing, as much as I may disagree with those who, sympathise with socialism or, for whatever reason, being fascism or anything else, at the end of the day, I believe in their free right to speak their mind, to express themselves, to show whatever they like. So long as another individual is not infringing upon your individual rights, in other words, so long as there's no violent action to force their will upon you. Now, I'm a great admirer of the likes of Tommy Lahren, and I admire for what she speaks of. She's very passionate for what she speaks of and things, and she's, intelligent enough to understand the value of things like the free market and everything. But the small things like that, I don't agree with her upon, really, because I just believe that people have their free right to express themselves. But I can understand when someone feels patriotic and passionate of their country, then they do see a problem with that, and I can understand her from that perspective. But my issue is when it comes down to when patriots, if you want to call them that, or may want to just call them nationalists, when they have a problem, when they see something they call upon the state to take action. And it just so happens to be, I don't think they had to take much action when it comes to a strongly nationalist type of president in Donald Trump, who seeks to use that sort of collective force to force and impose his ways upon people collectively. I don't agree that's the way around things. And this is the thing, I don't really, I'm not on, don't get me wrong, I'm not on side with these people who are purely anti-British or anti-American, etc. I don't agree with these people because I'm proud and patriotically British. And a lot of the time these people who are, you know, anti-British, for example, I'm just using this as an example, a lot of these people who are anti-British seem to conflate being proud of being British with that of imperialism or colonialism, etc., etc. What you need to understand is that the reason why that argument's deeply flawed is simply because just because you show pride in being British and, for example, the British Union, it does not mean to say that you are proud of what your government did in the past. Now, there's a strong difference between the government and, of course, the people. It's one of those things that there is a strong difference between the two of them. So when you look at, for example, 19th century or 18th century British history, it was the British government that led us in that direction. Is it really any different to when the British government led the people who disagreed with the government into the Iraq War? No, there isn't a difference. You see, there's a strong difference between the people of society to that of what government does and what government is. Anyway, folks, I don't know what your personal opinion is on the whole thing, but for me, I wouldn't consider myself so much as a nationalist. I would say I'm more someone patriotic of, you know, my own heritage, and that's something that I like to make very clear, because I don't think it's right when people seek to get the government involved, and when the government becomes that, well, I'm sorry to say, but it becomes very dictatorial over certain issues and starts dictating that, oh, you can or you cannot do this certain thing and all the rest of this, and calling out for certain such and such to be fired. I just, as a libertarian, that's something that I personally don't agree with. Anyway, I would like to hear your own personal opinion. What is your own personal opinion on the whole thing? What's your view on the nationalism and patriotism? Have you got a different view? What's your own view on the whole thing with Donald Trump and the issue to do with the American football thing of what's going on? I don't really watch it, but it was something that escalated, that became pretty popular, and it's just something that I spotted through Tommy Laren's own talking. I admire her patriotism and her love for our country, like anybody who shows love in their country, but it's just something I don't agree that the state should get involved in all the rest of this and forcing one's will upon another will. I don't agree with that. So anyway, folks, please be sure to give the video a thumbs up, or maybe if you don't like the video, you know, click the thumbs down or whatever, and be sure to, you know, share the video. If you like my channel, feel free to subscribe, and of course I shall get back to your comments. Thank you for watching. I shall talk to you later. Cheers.